following is a dramatization of an actual cult deprogramming that took place on Long Island, New York. The scenario begins in the Ann Arbor, Michigan living room of Mr. and Mrs. Max Helfand. Max Helfand, a successful cosmetics distributor in his early 50s, stands at the front door, a small suitcase in one hand, waiting for his son Ronnie to join him.
Ronnie, what are you just sitting there for?
I changed my mind. I'm not going.
But that's not right. You made plans with your father.
This is the way I feel, and it's not for you to tell me what's right or what's not right.
Ronnie, don't talk to your mother that way. You agreed to come with me to New York so I could buy you enough clothes to last the year that you'll be away. You can't ask me to throw away the cost of the airfare.
I can't. Who says I can't?
Would your guru approve of wasting your father's money?
He has the same regard for your money that he has for you. Both are contemptible.
Don't you know how it hurts us when you say things like that?
I say them for your own good. Maybe they'll make you see the truth about yourself.
Ronnie, you said you were coming with me. Please honor your word.
Please honor your word. How righteous. All right, I'm coming.
Good.
Well, if we're going, let's go.
You warm up the car. I'll be with you in a second.
All right.
Please, don't let them hurt him.
Nobody's going to hurt him. It'll be all right. I'll call you as soon as there's something to report.
The United Airlines flight from Detroit to Kennedy International Airport lands with Mr. Helfand and son Ronnie aboard. Some 4 miles away on a quiet residential street in Queens sits a blue Chevy van parked, waiting. Inside the van are 4 men. 2 of them, Moish and Schechter, are professional deprogrammers. The third one, Shea Hecht, a rabbi, has been in daily contact with Mr. Helfand for 2 weeks. The fourth man in the van, Dov Bear, is a 40-year-old Baal Tshuva, a returnee to Orthodox Judaism, considered something of an expert in Oriental religions and philosophies. Rabbi Hecht speaks first.
I promised the father that we go easy on him. He says the kid is very sensitive and can't stand anything too intense.
Rabbi, I would never have agreed to such a condition.
Okay, you wouldn't, but I did.
So how are you so sure that these people, the Helfands, are 100% behind us? You know, if the parents aren't with us, I don't want anything to do with it.
Weish, listen to me. The mother told me that she's aged 15 years in the last 5. The kid is literally tearing her to pieces. One day he's trying to convert her. The next day he's accusing her of being the devil and says she'll burn in hell. Believe me, the parents are with us. They begged me to take the case on.
And you're absolutely sure the kid is ripe for deprogramming?
According to what his father told me, the Hare Krishnas got him in by 2 weeks of brainwashing. They didn't let him sleep more than a couple of hours a night until he snapped in and bought the whole trip. If they programmed him in, we can deprogram him out.
As the Helfands exit through Gate 51, they see a limousine driver holding a sign that reads, Helfands, Park Lane Hotel.
Excuse me, I'm Max Helfand.
Oh, yes, sir.
And this is my son, Ronnie.
Do you have any luggage to claim?
No, we just brought these overnight bags.
Fine. If you'll just come this way then, sir. The hotel limo is parked very close.
The 3 men walk together, emerging in front of the terminal and entering a dark blue Oldsmobile 4-door sedan. Ronnie and Mr. Helfand get in the back. Both Mr. Helfand and Ronnie sit uneasily. Ronnie adjusts the large golfer's-type cap which hides his shaved head and top-knot ponytail, indicative of Hare Krishna followers. Mr. Helfand glances nervously out the side window in anticipation of the scene which is about to occur, wishing desperately that it didn't have to happen. The time is 11:35 p.m. The blue sedan turns onto the residential street in Queens, now deserted except for a Chevy van. As the sedan pulls alongside the van, it suddenly stops.
Hey, what's going on?
Don't worry, Ronnie. Nothing's going to happen.
What is this?
Come with me, Mr. Helfand. It'll be all right, Ronnie. These men are rabbis. They're not going to hurt you.
You set me up!
Come with me.
Moish and Schechter get in the back seat on either side of Ronnie as Mr. Helfand is led back to the van, and the big car drives off again into the night. It is now the next morning. Ronnie Helfand sits alone in the bedroom of a house somewhere on Long Island. The room is stark, furnished only with a bed, a small dresser, and 4 folding chairs. The bare light bulb in the ceiling fixture casts a harsh light. The windows in the room are covered by drapes. Ronnie Helfand stands up from the bed and pulls aside the drapes to look outside, only to find that the windows are boarded up from the outside.
No point looking out there, Ronnie.
So I noticed. What time is it?
What's the difference? You're here for the duration.
Well, I'm glad at least that my father brought me to religious Jews instead of professional deprogrammers.
You're right. I'm not a professional deprogrammer. I'm a rabbi. A Jew just like yourself. Your father asked me to talk to you to make you understand that despite what you think, You're a member of a cult.
That's your opinion.
And not only is it a cult, but it may be one of the most deceitful cults in the world.
You're wrong, and you're going to pay for what you're saying.
Is that a threat?
Take it any way you want. But there's not much I can do to you. You've got me locked up, not the other way around.
How you doing, kid?
Ronnie, I don't think you've been formally introduced to my friends. This is Moish.
Hello, I'm glad to meet you.
And I'm Schechter.
Tell me, Ronnie, what do you do for a living?
I give out books at the airports.
You give out books. And then what do you do?
I ask for donations.
And if you don't get the donation, does the person get to keep the book?
No, I ask for the book back.
That doesn't sound like giving out books to me. I mean, if I gave you a piece of fruit and then waited for you to raise it to your mouth and then stopped you and asked you for some money, and if you refused, I took the fruit back, I wouldn't be giving out fruit, would I? Would I?
All right, I don't give out books. I sell books.
That's not selling books. That's deceiving people into giving you their money. That's what cults do, Ronnie. They deceive.
Your cult made $22 million last year at the airports pretending to give out books. Not a bad racket, except for its being so morally offensive.
Hey, by the way, Ronnie, they pay you well? Or do they deceive you also? What do your gurus do with the money?
They use the money for good purposes.
They use the money for themselves, my friend. It's all in Swiss banks and fancy mountain retreats for their personal pleasure. You, they give a cot and a bowl of vegetarian soup. They use you to extort money out of innocent people and leave you with nothing.
You're a dirty liar. Just shut up.
Hey, kid, I don't think you appreciate the situation you're in.
Why? What do you think you're going to do to me? I know you're religious Jews, and I know you're not going to beat me up. So don't expect any cooperation from me.
Hey, Moish, on your way out, you and Schechter find Dove Bear. I want Ronnie to meet him.
Yeah, all right. We'll see you later.
Ronnie, you're a Jew. Your religion is Judaism.
My religion is Hare Krishna.
That's not a religion. It's a cult.
It's a religion.
Then where are your schools? Where are your yeshivas? What do you study?
We study.
Where?
What's the difference? Where? We study, all right?
You study, but the main thing is that you're out in the streets schlepping in the gelt. To me, that's not a religion. It's a business, a dirty one. It's like a Hindu mafia.
When we take money from someone, we're saving them.
From what?
From going to hell.
Oh, now I see. You trick people, but the trick is justified because you're saving their souls.
That's basically right.
And who's going to send them to hell just in case you don't save them?
Krishna, God.
Uh-huh. By the way, this God of yours that sends everybody to hell, you worship an image of him, don't you? A little statue, in fact, what we call an idol. Now, I heard a thing about this idol, and I want to know if it's true. Do you really wash this little statue with a solution that you drink afterwards?
Yes.
And is it true that the solution is made from cow urine?
These things you can't possibly understand. This is a sacred formula that's thousands of years old.
Oh, yeah. And is the cow urine also thousands of years old? Who are you kidding? A sacred formula, my foot. This is sickness and mishigas, period.
You just don't understand.
Okay, Ronnie. Let's say I just don't understand. Maybe you can teach me. Now, why don't you tell me how you got into Hare Krishna in the first place?
I did it because they saved my soul and my life.
All right, so tell me about it. I really want to know.
All right. Maybe you'll understand us better if I tell you. It was a little more than 5 years ago. It had been a rough year for me. My grades in school were very poor. My girlfriend had just broken up with me. I needed a change, some new scenery. So I asked my folks if I could take a trip to Israel. I had already started searching for some understanding about why I was existing on this depressing little planet, and I thought maybe the answer was in Israel.
Ronnie, so far you've described a desperate kid, vulnerable to almost anything that might make him feel better about himself.
Maybe, but at least I was searching. Most people are losers their whole lives and don't bother to go out and find out why.
Yeah, go on.
At first I thought that maybe I'd live on a kibbutz for a while, but then after I got there it seemed more important to keep looking for answers than to pick oranges.
Uh-huh. So what did you find?
Nothing, really. I wandered around Jerusalem for a few days. Then I was invited to spend a weekend at a moshav with a bunch of weirdos. They were all hippie types, guys with long hair and loud shirts. There was a rabbi there, or at least he called himself a rabbi, only his wife was sitting on his lap most of the time. It seemed pretty stupid. They sang a lot of Zionist songs and they danced a lot, and that's about all I can say for it. So I simply got up and left, very disappointed. A few hours later, I found myself wandering around by the bus station in Tel Aviv. That's when this prostitute approached me. She was disgusting. I told her to get lost, and she made a face at me and looked to me just like a demon. Then I looked around, and all the people began looking like demons. That's when this very gentle fellow came up to me and put an arm around my shoulder and told me to relax. I guess I must have looked like I was in trouble. Anyway, we started talking, and I told him that these people were animals. He said, I'll never forget the words. He said, I'm not an animal. My friends aren't animals, and you don't have to be an animal. He told me that he could show me the way to freedom from all my problems, and he did. He showed me the path to enlightenment and complete freedom.
He was from Hare Krishna?
Right. First, I visited their house a couple of times and ate with them. They were vegetarians, very strict. I liked that. I had experimented with being a vegetarian myself. Then I moved into the house for a 2-week intensive, like a retreat. They blew my mind with their ideas. Such wonderful discipline. That's when my friend told me that he wanted me to meet the guru. They brought me to his meditation room. It was dimly lit. The guru sat motionless in the lotus position, studying me. I stood in silence for, at least 5 minutes. Finally, the guru said, "When are you going to stop being a woman? Make up your mind to accept Krishna as God and follow me as your guru."
And you did?
Yes.
That's some story. Let me tell it back to you. This kid has failure after failure in his life. At his lowest moment, a cult leader picks him up, brings him to their cult headquarters. They brainwash him for 2 weeks, weakening him with a diet of boiled potatoes and string beans, feeding him their dogman ideas day in and day out, with no more than a couple of hours sleep at a time. Keep him meditating till he loses all contact with reality. Then they bring him to the guru, and the kid surrenders, making it the greatest failure in his life. Ronnie, think. Did the guru say to you, show your courage, demonstrate your greatness? No. He said, stop being a woman. That's how he broke you. He played on your poor self-image. He manipulated you. He said if you don't join and hand over your soul, you're a woman. There's nothing wrong with being a woman, Ronnie. That is, unless you're a man. You're not a woman, Ronnie. You're a man. And you're not a Hare Krishna. You're a Jew.
Ronnie Helfand stares ahead blankly as he begins to reflect on his own story. The words he has just heard have shaken his resolve. Ronnie looks up at Shea and wonders to himself, is the love and sincerity he's feeling now at the hands of his captor, is it real? Or is this all just a test of his faith in what he considers to be the religion of his salvation? 3 days have passed without much progress. Ronnie has been allowed to sleep 4 hours a night and is allowed to eat whenever he is hungry. The philosophy is that if it takes a little longer to deprogram someone who is well fed, then it's just going to have to take a little longer. But deny somebody food, it simply isn't Jewish. In the room, Shea sits talking to Ronnie, and with them is Rose Scharfman, a neighbor of Shea's who has been very effective in these deprogrammings.
Ronnie, Shea told me that your Hebrew name is Michael. Michael. That's a very holy name. You know that Michael is one of the great angels who defends the Jewish people.
Yeah? Well, I think he does a lousy job of it. Besides, I have a Hindu name in Sanskrit that my guru gave me. Aruna. This is the name I prefer.
They also tell me you're a Kohen. You know what a Kohen is?
I know perfectly well. It's a priest. It means nothing to me.
A priest? Your ancestors served in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. They probably hobnobbed with King Solomon. How could you throw away this precious heritage for Hare Krishna? Aren't the main Hindu prayers about asking God to reveal his oneness?
Well, yeah, that's true.
That he should have mercy on them and end the duality?
Yeah, so?
Well, Mr. Jew and Mr. Kohen, do you know what you're supposed to proclaim as your faith? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. What you've got, they're praying for. And you threw it away to become one of them.
What do you say, Ronnie? You ready to reject the cult and rejoin the living?
You're wasting your breath.
Dov Bear.
How you doing, Shea? Hiya, Ronnie.
Maybe you can do something with him. I'm just about to give up.
Give up on Ronnie? What for? Tell me, Ronnie, did you smoke a lot of dope before you got involved with Hare Krishna?
What? What's that got to do with anything?
Now, what about the psilocybin mushroom?
I don't see what the connection is, but yes, I took the mushroom a number of times. Why?
Are you aware of the fact that your Hindu scripture was written entirely as a result of a psychedelic mushroom experience? The whole thing is a false illusion, one big hallucination. All the millions upon millions of gods that are in it never existed except in the stoned, warped little mind of the jerk who wrote it.
That's a dirty lie.
It says right in the Hindu Bible, the Gita as they call it, that Krishna will pervade the earth as the consciousness of the mushroom. If you eat the mushroom, you get Krishna. He's the mushroom fairy. That's your religion, Ronnie?
How do you know so much about the Gita?
Well, I edited 4 versions of it before I became a religious Jew. That was back in my old hippie days.
You're kidding.
You think so? You think this is a joke? I want you to know, my young friend, that you are an idol worshiper. Just like they worshipped little clay dolls back in Abraham's time 4,000 years ago, you worship a little clay idol today.
If you know the Gita, then you know there's a deep philosophy behind what you call the little clay idol.
Kid, there's always a deep philosophy. I know a guy who proved logically that you should worship your toenails. And I am sure, if he wanted to, he could have found some confused, unhappy people who would have embraced this concept. Bottom line is, the God of Israel is God, and you are spitting on him by worshiping a doll, Ronnie, a doll. Think.
This Kishna doll, Ronnie, is it supposed to represent the deity, or do you worship it as the actual deity itself?
Yes, it is God himself, and the fact that God can place his transcendent, infinite being into such a thing proves the greatness of God.
I think I'm going to throw up.
Stop already with the mumbo-jumbo. Somebody made an idol and you worshipped it, period. Ronnie, man doesn't make God. God creates man. Please believe me, have a little pity on yourself and get out of the cult. Give a little space to the incredible notion that you are an idol worshiper.
I don't know. You're confusing me. Let me alone.
Ronnie Helfand buries his head in his hands out of frustration as Shea, Dove Bear, and Rose watch him, hoping that this is the beginning of his struggle back to his own identity. The hours stretch into days. Ronnie is now in the 6th day of the deprogramming. None of the people involved in this case has seen his equal for sheer stamina and stubbornness. By now, Ronnie has received the equivalent of a month's course in basic Judaism, with which he was almost completely unfamiliar when he first entered the little room.
Be truthful with me, Ronnie. You've been in Hare Krishna for 5 years. Why do you stay with it?
Because I am afraid that if I let go, I will go to hell.
You mean you're afraid that when you die and go upstairs to be judged, Krishna will be the judge and he's going to punish you and send you to hell?
Yes.
And that's freedom.
What?
Well, you told us that they promised you enlightenment and complete freedom. The truth is that they've given you a dark mental prison.
Incidentally, did you ever consider the fact that you might get punished because you worship idols and drink cow urine?
Not really.
I didn't think so.
You're a constant source of grief to your parents. Don't you think you're going to be punished for that?
I don't know.
We have a thing called the 10 Commandments. You ever hear of it?
Yes, I heard of it.
The first of the 10 Commandments says, I am the Lord, thy God, who took you out of the land of Egypt. Did you ever read anywhere in your Hindu teachings that Krishna took the Jewish people out of the land of Egypt?
No.
No. And the second of the 10 Commandments says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. So if Krishna didn't take the Jewish people out of the land of Egypt, that makes him another god, and that makes you in big trouble, the worst.
Shut up. Why don't you leave me alone?
Several more hours pass. Mr. Helfand, Ronnie's father, has been waiting anxiously for the slightest news of encouragement, and has received none. Despite all of Shea's attempts to give him confidence that he will soon have his son back safe and in one piece, Mr. Helfand only fears for the boy's physical and mental condition.
How much longer is this going to take? I'm worried about his stamina. It's very difficult for one person to endure all this.
Look, Mr. Helfand, Ronnie's only been here for 6 days. He slept well and eaten the best vegetarian food that money can buy. We've gotten him yogurt and whole wheat bread and everything he's wanted. Which, by the way, is exactly why he has the strength to fight us so hard. If you want to worry about anyone, worry about us. None of us has seen his family for nearly 6 days, and I haven't gotten as much sleep as your son in there. Not to mention the fact that I'm not too crazy about yogurt.
All right, you have to be a little indulgent with me. I'm not enjoying any of this, you know. I just want it over with so I can take my son home.
Well, if it's any comfort to you, I think the worst is over. And I'm planning to bring Moishen Schechter in to crack him.
Crack him? What do you mean, crack him?
Mr. Helfand, if Ronnie doesn't break down and cry for all that he's done to you and to himself, then he can't be considered out of the cult. You read the books on cults I gave you. You should realize that we're holding in a good place with him. In any event, I'm confident enough that things are going the way they should to tell you that you should send for Mrs. Helfand, because I think we all might be spending the Shabbat together.
Thank God.
You can use the phone downstairs. I have to go in there now while Moishen Schechter hopefully finish it off. How soon can Mrs. Helfand be here?
About 4 hours.
That's just about right.
Ronnie, I want you to level with me. How many families has your cult destroyed?
Let me alone. I don't know the answers to any of your questions. I just don't know.
You don't know? What about your own mother? You are personally killing her. Is that sacred? Is that enlightenment? Is killing your own mother with non-stop torment enlightenment?
Your mother brought you into the world and loved you and still loves you, and so does your father. What about you loving them? The Ten Commandments says you have to honor your father and mother. How come your guru tells you different? How come he tells you to despise them?
Do you think God wants you to make your father and mother suffer?
No.
Well, you know who does?
What's that? What have you got behind your back?
Here it is. An 8x10 glossy of the face of your false god. What will modern science think of next?
That's a picture of Kishna.
Oh, you mean this? This thing here is what you're afraid is going to send you to hell. I don't think this fake photograph or this fake drawing of this fake god could send anyone anywhere.
In fact, if anyone's going to burn...
What are you going to do?
Nothing much, just this.
No, don't do that. Please don't burn that picture.
Maybe you'd like to spit on it and put out the fire.
Ronnie, for this pile of ashes, you desecrated everything in your life that was good and decent.
The false god is dead, kid. He never was alive.
Here's a prettier picture, Ronnie.
That's my mother.
Ronnie, if you want to say your parents made mistakes, you're probably right. But one thing is certain, they genuinely love you. You are certainly the most important person in the world to them. Only your guru tells you different. Hare Krishna wants to keep you alienated from your parents, which is exactly what the Moonies do to their people and what Jews for Jesus does to theirs. It's what every cult religion does. Why? Because the cult can't control the kid if he's connected to his mother and father.
Ronnie, Judaism teaches that when a child is born, there are three partners in that birth. The mother and the father create the child's body, and the third partner, God himself, gives it a soul. In your case, a holy Jewish soul.
By turning you against your mother and father, Ronnie, the cult also turns you against the source of your body and soul. They bring you to hate your own essential being.
Ronnie, do you know that your mother cries about you every day?
I know she cries a lot.
Every day. For 5 years, this woman has cried for you. Do you think your mother is a beautiful woman, Ronnie?
Yes.
How many years do you think she's aged during the 5 years you've been in the cult?
I don't know.
People who know her say she's aged 15 years in the past 5. You don't get those years back, Ronnie. You stole them from her. Now, I want you to listen to this. I'm going to read you something that you wrote in your notebook when you first got into the cult.
Give me that. That's mine. Where'd you get that?
Your father gave it to me. It says, "My mother is full of hate because she eats meat. She kills animals and eats meat and therefore hates." It says, "Jews are full of hate because they kill animals and eat meat." Ronnie, God gave us permission to eat meat. Right in the Bible, in Leviticus, it says, "These are the living animals which you may eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is wholly cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that you may eat." This is God's instruction to the Jewish people, Ronnie. It then goes on to tell us what birds we can eat and what fish we can eat, those with fins and scales, etc. Ronnie, do you think your cult is more merciful than God?
No.
Do you know what a religion based on vegetarianism proves?
What?
That they don't believe that God gave man dominion over the animals. And do you know why?
No.
Because they see themselves only as a continuum with the rest of the animal kingdom. They see themselves as mere animals. Judaism distinguishes man from the rest of God's creatures. It calls man the crown of creation. It acknowledges the soul as being part of God himself. Ronnie, remember what you told me your friend said to you at the Tel Aviv bus station? He said they were different, that they weren't animals. Well, I'm telling you, they are the animals, and you lowered yourself to be just another animal like them.
Is this really true? I don't know what to believe anymore.
Let me read you something else you wrote. It says here, "My mother is a creature of lust. She's no better than a prostitute or an animal." Do you believe that, Ronnie?
No, of course I don't.
Well, you wrote it. Do you love your parents, Ronnie?
Yes, of course I love
Then
them.
why did you write this stuff?
I only wrote what they told me.
Well, how is it possible? Why do you think they wanted you to write those lies?
I don't know.
They were only doing what every cult does. All that great philosophy they taught you, all that wonderful discipline you were exposed to. I'm not saying it was all bad. That's the power of the cult. They bring out some startling truths and then mix it into their own big lie. I promise you, Ronnie, every bit of truth you ever found in Hare Krishna and every bit of truth you would find in any cult religion, you can also find in the Torah. The only thing unique and distinctive to the cult is the lie. Do you understand this, Ronnie? Does this make any sense to you?
What in the world am I going to do now?
Ronnie, if your mother were here now, what would you do?
I'd apologize to her for what I've done. I would tell her that I love her and that I'm sorry Oh, God, I'm sorry.
All right, make believe she's in the room, Ronnie. Tell her how much you love her and how you want to be her son again. Moishe and Schechter and I will leave so you won't be embarrassed.
Mom, I love you very much. And I'm sorry for all the pain I've caused you. I want another chance. I want to be your son again.
Ronnie takes the photograph of his mother and holds it close to him, hugging it tightly, and begins rocking back and forth. His mother, who arrived nearly a half hour earlier, enters the room and approaches her son as he continues to say how much he loves her and how sorry he is for what he has done.
Ronnie?
Huh? Mom?
It's all right, Ronnie. I always knew you loved me.
Hi, son.
Dad? Oh, Dad, thanks.
Well, you think it's time to celebrate?
Yes, it's definitely time.
You have just heard the dramatization of an actual deprogramming. The action was condensed from approximately 1 week of discussions and confrontations. The names of the people and other revealing details were changed to cover their true identities. Ronnie Helfand voluntarily cut his pigtail off and divorced himself from the Hare Krishna cult, then agreed to spend 1 month studying in Brooklyn's Hadara Torah Yeshiva to become reacquainted with Jewish values and traditions. At the conclusion of the month, he returned to Ann Arbor, Michigan, to be with his parents and build a new life as a Jewish man. We all hope he succeeds.